Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? And I hope your day is going well. I'm Linda Bryant, leadership strategist and transition coach, and I support business organizations who want to take their culture of their organization and make a place of work a great place to work. And by doing that, organizations are spending a lot of time focusing on their current leadership, how they're identifying and engaging future and potential leadership, while also looking at ways to transition their workplace culture to make it a great place for everyone that works there. But anyway, I thought I would stop in and have a chat with you about how to close the leadership ambition gap, right? So I think this is a important topic. And if you are one that has struggled with your own, leadership, identifying your own leadership strengths, qualities, and abilities, or maybe you're one that maybe you didn't apply for that last job, or maybe you have not even thought about applying for a leadership role with a company or organization or within your own place of work. Maybe this will help inspire you to take that next step. So, when I talk about the leadership ambition gap, first of all, I just want to make sure we're on the same page about ambition, right? So ambition is really about something that like you want to do, you aspire to do. It's going to take work for you to get there. It takes drive and motivation. And when I talk about the ambition gap, what I mean is for some individuals, there's this space between where they are at today and where a person may want to be tomorrow. So that's what I'm going to talk about today when I talk about how we can close the leadership ambition gap, because sometimes there's a gap that exists that no one ever talks about. No one's ever mentioned it. But maybe after today, it's something that you will at least begin to think about if you've not taken that next step. So the reason why it's important to have this conversation or chat, and I hope that this is important to you if you're staying on to listen, that by not closing that ambition gap, we sometimes may miss out on opportunities because we feel like we're not ready. So that open position may come up or that opportunity may come about. And, maybe, there's thoughts of, well, I haven't done anything to prepare myself for that, or I don't have this type of education, or I've not had that experience. Well, that happens when a leadership ambition gap starts to permeate or exist or plants itself in your brain. A second thing maybe that you weren't prepared for the opportunity. Um, you knew that it's something that you wanted to do in the future, but you just didn't do anything about it. You didn't develop any new leadership skills. And even though back then or when you had that opportunity that you had identified a couple of areas for yourself, or maybe someone else identified it for you, where if you just developed in a couple of these areas, it would make you a stronger candidate or make the role for you a little bit more competitive, or maybe you would have even have gotten the role had you have been ready, or maybe just not maybe you're just not engaged in terms of who you are and who you want to be and who you want to show up to be as a leader each and every day. And that's okay. That, you know what, that is okay if you don't know who you want to become just yet as a leader when you step in the door, because eventually you will get there, because the there is already there. It's just that leadership potential is going to or has not surfaced for you just yet. And one of the things that this reasons this came to mind for me today is I thought about one of my clients, Walter, and Walter is participating in the Leadership Huddle experience, which is something that I offer for individuals that want to develop their leadership skills or maybe want to just refresh their leadership skills around self-management, around identifying and leading others, and transition management. And so we were in our third week. Yeah, I believe it was the third week, third session. And Walter put a question on the board that his job was hiring because there's a lot of open positions. And his question was, do you think that I'm ready to apply for one of those positions? Because I've never even applied for them before. I didn't even think about it before. And so, Walter had never had a leadership role in this company. But I bet he has had other leadership roles in other ways, shapes, and forms. Walter was the eldest of 6 kids in his family. So I know that he has some leadership skills there. Walter he was the captain of his basketball team in high school. So I know that he has some leadership qualities and potentials when he took me there, when he shared that information with me. But Walter also didn't think that he had the ability to lead. And that's one of the reasons why he showed up in the leadership development huddle experience, is because he wanted to understand what was the potential that he brings into the role that he had. And then, he had never been asked if he even had an interest in a role in terms of leadership within his current position or with his current company, which, to me is sad, that companies have individuals that have leadership potential, but then the opportunities are not availed to them, where they could even have the opportunity to do that. So how I found out about this is just, like I said, Walter brought this up in one of our sessions, if he should apply. And, one of the things that I wrote up on the board is, Walter, why not? Why not apply for that role or for that position? What would keep you from doing that? You don't have to apply. You can just let another opportunity pass you by. You've not done the job before. I get it. It'll be your first time. But, sometimes it's learning by doing. You have an opportunity that's availed itself to you. And then, I know that before, your life was a little bit busy. You've shared that with us. You had, a brand new baby. You had, your wife was unemployed at the time, and there were so many other things that were going on that you didn't take the chance to even apply yourself for that opportunity. But there's no better chance than now, right? And so, in terms of Walt, he was just only 3 weeks into the leadership huddle session. And so he was developing skills like every single time he showed up, and he was taking what he was learning and applying it within his role that he currently had, applying it within different areas of his life. And he could really find benefit in some of what he was developing for himself personally as to how he could apply that professionally. But you know what? But the thing about Walter was, what was his ambition to lead? And I just remember, there was a moment of silence, and it was quiet on the call. And the thing about Walter was that before, he would always tell himself no, he wasn't ready, or he couldn't do this, or he didn't have the skills. Um, but I could see the ambition for him growing, that ambition gap closing, that ambition gap where he took the opportunity around all the things that he was learning, and he was starting to build his bridge um, to get him over that gap from where he is today to where he could be tomorrow. So maybe, in the past, when maybe the interest for those roles just wasn't there because there were things happening or going on for him, whatever that may be. Um, all of our experiences are different in terms of what gives us ambition and drive to move or to move on something rather than not to. Um, but, when you're looking at closing the ambition gap, you want to make sure that you're not looking at something in terms of it's just a job or just a career, but this is about an experience and opportunity that's going to support you and come up for you time and time again in the future. Whether your leadership experiences show up because you've gotten a new role, or your strengths show up because you've had a situation that you've had to deal with or you dealt with that other people did not have the ability to do it to resolve in a manner that you or a leader like yourself would have done it. Um, or you want to take advantage of those opportunities to also test your own talents and strengths and abilities and put them to use, because remember that leadership is all about, it's about growth and opportunity, and it's a journey. It's not a place where you're going to land one day in terms of your responsibility, and it's a story that you're going to have with you, and you're going to carry with you, and you're going to continue to build on for the rest of your life. And that when you take the opportunity, when you have ambition, you also want to make sure and think about, this is my time. You want to walk into that like, this is my time now, because that is what prepares you for whatever it is you're about to do. And it's one of those things that will help you think about how you're going to build that bridge between the ambition and where you want to be in the future. So I've mentioned the bridge and the bridge analogy when I talk about the ambition gap, because I don't think that you can fill the gap by just dropping things in it. And when I say drop things in it, is that oftentimes we don't have the time right now to fill that gap. Like, you don't have time right now to go to school for a year to apply for a leadership role tomorrow or in 2 weeks. You may not have 3 years to get the required degree to become the CEO or executive of an organization that you had ambitions to lead someday. And so when I talk about bridging the gap, remember how bridges are built piece by piece. And it starts on one side. And as you're building the bridge, you got to come up, you got to walk across whatever parts that you're building, right, to get to the other side. And that's what I talk about when I mention, when I talk about building the bridge to get you from one side of the ambition gap to the other, because that's what it's really about, is how are you building the bridge to connect where you want to be, where you are right now, and then where you want to be in the future. So as you're building that bridge so that you can get to the other side, especially as if you had not thought about what your ambitions are, but you have begun to think about them today, I want you to take a few minutes and identify, what are your strengths? What are your leadership strengths? What are you bringing to the table? Those strengths, are a reflection of your skills, your knowledge, your abilities, your experiences, the opportunities, things that you may have done in your life, probably that other people would not have done or had the opportunity to do, but you have, hey, it's worked for you and you have achieved great success from it, right? And then I want you to take a few minutes to identify and set a few goals for yourself around leadership development. Now, you know, you want to make sure those goals are SMART goals. They're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're very time specific. You want to make sure that when you write them out, that it includes all of those phases, because it is those goals that are going to become these small targets for you to achieve as you begin to build that bridge to get to one side to the next, right? So I'll just tell you a little bit, what happened with Walt is that, he didn't get that job that he talked about, that he applied for that day. But he did apply for another job in a different department and actually got that job. And I think the difference is that with both of those jobs, I think Walt's aspirations and his ambition around why he wanted to start applying for other positions within his company and organization, that began to change for him, especially as he began to identify what his goals were and how he was going to achieve those goals. And that began to show up in his work. It began to show up in how he talked about his work. It began to show up in terms of how he felt about the company where he worked at. Um, and so over time, that changed for him. And so I was happy to hear when he came back 3 weeks later to share with the group that he had gotten the opportunity for a new job, because it was a really powerful story, and powerful to see how one person showed up that did not engage their own leadership potential, could in a matter of weeks identify what that truly meant, that gem that was already in them that had begun to surface. So, over time, the ambition to lead, it expands and it grows. And so maybe you didn't have an ambition before today or before listening to what I'm sharing with you. But you know what? Everything starts like with a seed, like it starts with a thought, it starts with a idea. And if that's not where you were before, I hope that's where you're going to be at today, moving forward. Um, I think too is that over time, we become more confident as we develop our skills, as we develop our thoughts around ourselves and what we're bringing to the table, as we become more confident um, in ourselves and our leadership abilities. And remember that, your leadership style, it may have a title, like servant leadership. Okay, well, yeah, there's hundreds and thousands of people that have that title, but the way that they serve in terms of their leadership role, it looks different because you're different and none of us are the same. And so we're going to bring differences to the table. And that's important and that's inspiring. And that's what business organizations need, is that they don't need everyone that's going to come in and lead the exact same way. They need to have people come in, lead in a way that they're going to identify and engage other potential leaders. They're going to help create a culture within a company or organization that doesn't just is not just a place to show up to work every day, but becomes a great place to be in terms of work every single day. And then also, make sure that, you think about the importance of setting goals. And, maybe, it's not setting 15 goals, but maybe to start out with setting one or two short, quick goals for yourself that's going to help you begin to think about and move towards, do I really want to stay here doing this, or do I have, aspirations to do something else? Do I really have the skills to apply for that next job, or to lead that next meeting, or the next time I'm offered the opportunity to chair on a committee, that I don't back down, but I really embrace that opportunity, because it's going to help me lead forward. It's going to help move me towards more opportunities. It's going to help you in terms of leadership gain more different types of experiences. And the only way to learn and become a great leader is you have to be able to learn and evaluate all the experiences that you're going to have and that you will have in a leadership role, or even as you're preparing for a leadership role, right? So what motivates and drives us is it looks and feels different to each one of us, because we're all different and we're not all the same. And it really depends on, who we are and what our experiences and opportunities have been, or the lack thereof. That's going to be different for each person, because our lifelong journeys are and have and will continue to be different. We just, maybe, you just never thought about, or thought about what could be. Like, could this possibly happen for me? Like, you've seen things happen for other people and they've never just happened for you. But sometimes, I often share with people is that you won't have success without corresponding actions. Now, people think that things just drop into other people's lap, but it doesn't. You have to do something for something to just drop into your lap. So like the Powerball, if someone wins the lottery, it wasn't just luck, right? They had to buy a ticket. If they wouldn't have bought a ticket, then they wouldn't have even gotten their numbers to even win the lottery or the Powerball, right? So I just want to say, if you want to have success in your life, you want to have movement, there has to be corresponding actions with that, right? And that's what happened with Walt, is that Walt's ambition was to just sit and wait, and maybe something will happen for him and maybe not. And he was okay with that. But for him, it was about, how did he now start moving, doing something towards what he thought that he wanted, which made the most significant difference for Walt, rather than just not doing anything, rather than thinking that he was not the right guy or the right person, or could be that right person, that right guy, or the next person, right? And so this happens for, people like you, people like me, all the time. And that's why I think this, talking about this is so important, because it's rarely that this ever comes up in discussion, in terms of, like, asking people, what are their aspirations? What are their aspirations around leadership? And maybe just recently, maybe you were asked that question, or maybe when you think about it, no one's ever asked you. They may have asked you, what's your interest around a job, or what's your interest around your hobby, or what's your interest about your next trip, or where you're going to take your next vacation. But no one probably asked you about, what do you aspire to be in terms of leadership? So remember that, as you think about, your ambition to lead, want to also think about where you are today and where you want to be. Because remember, when you're building a bridge, the bridge got to go to somewhere. It's got to have an end. You can't just build a bridge just to be building the bridge, right? And so I want to see you build this bridge with an end in mind. So the best way to get to the end, to think about starting something, is to begin with the end. So where do you want to be? And then start thinking backwards, in terms of, what is it going to take for you to get there? What is step, if this is a 10-step process for you, if the end result is 10, number 10, what is step number 9? What is step number 8? What is step number 7? And so on and so on and so on. Because that's going to help you identify what those goals are for you to get to where you are to where you want to be in the future. And then you also want to make sure too that that you think about those goals, that building that bridge in terms of like you're a construction worker, and that those different goals, like they become your own professional development leadership goals for yourself as part of building that bridge. And when you start thinking about what those goals are for yourself, I don't just want you to think about like, what are those areas that I need to build upon and are gaps for me? I want you to think about what are the strengths that you have and how you can strengthen those strengths. And then still have a focus on those areas that you want to improve or that may be a challenge for you. But you don't want those challenges to override what your strengths are, because it's your strengths that are going to get you to your next pillar or plank or part on that bridge. It is not going to be your deficits, because those deficits or challenges are what holds us back. It is our strengths and what we feel good about that keeps us moving forward, right? So just remember, you're going to get better. You're going to get you're going to be amazing as you begin to build your bridge to get you from where you are today to start getting you moving towards getting you over to that other side, right? And for each of us, that's going to look different. How much time it's going to take to do that is going to look different. There's no cookie cutter method in order to get you from one place to the other, with the exception of think about what those goals are, how you're going to achieve those goals, start moving on them so that you can begin seeing yourself moving to that other side. So I want you to remember that ambition, though, is all about, effort and then the work that you put into it. So if you put in no work or effort into it, you're not going to get to that other side. You're not going to get to where you want to be. You're not going to get to those areas where you want to grow and develop. You're not going to get to that next job as quick as you wanted to if you forget that that ambition requires your time, right? And then don't start second guessing yourself. Don't second guess whether or not you can do something. You know what? The only way you're going to learn to improve is you got to do it. And I always tell people, and I share this and I find it true. And if you are one that you have not applied for a job lately because you thought you weren't ready or you didn't have the skills, I challenge you. If you're already in a company and in a position and you see open leadership opportunities, begin to apply for those jobs. Because if you get turned down or you were not the next candidate in line for that role for some reason, shape, or form, you can get great feedback from the team or the staff person or the supervisor that interviewed you. And maybe that person can tell you, you know what? Hey, Joe, this is where you are really great at. And guess what? But there are 3 other people that had these strengths or these qualities that you may not have had or you need to develop and work on. Hey, guess what? You've gotten yourself some more free advice. You've gotten yourself some feedback that you can use to help you develop your goals. If you find the same true as what you just heard in terms of feedback, and then now you know what it takes to prepare yourself if an opportunity like this or similar to like this comes along again. No different than what Walter did. And the example that I shared earlier, it wasn't the same exact job that he applied for that he didn't get, but there was another job that was similar that he took the feedback from that interview and applied what he didn't know to prepare himself for the second interview or the second role that he wanted to go into. So don't second guess yourself. Don't overlook opportunities. Remember, ambition is about, doing things, doing the hard work, moving forward toward whatever your goal is, right? And so leadership and ambition is really about stepping forward. It's about moving forward. It's not about just staying stuck in one place. Um, Leadership and ambition together is about taking those steps, building those planks that's going to get you across. It's going to get you your bridge that's going to get you from your point where you're at today to where you want to be in the future. So no more excuses. Okay. There's no more excuses, you guys. All it is, it's opportunities. It's opportunities for you. It's opportunities for you to learn more about what you're great at and learn more about where you want to further develop yourself. And it is excellent. It's great opportunities for you. It's a great opportunity for you to lead. And I don't want you to miss that. I don't want you to miss another single opportunity. So Walter, he bridged the gap. And when he did, it involved work, and it involved hard work. And it involved, really taking a step back and looking at what his strengths are and looking at what are areas that he definitely would like or could develop. Because he worked on his ambition to lead. So remember when he was in my leadership huddle, because he was identified by his supervisor as a potential leader. But always when it came time to step up and do something, he would step back. He would not step forward. And now as he begins to step forward and has been stepping forward more, he's been given more opportunities, and those more opportunities has expanded his skill sets in terms of leadership, which hopefully positions him for other opportunities for leadership roles within his company in the very near future. So again, he missed it. Walter missed it the first time, but he nailed it the second time. He got that second job and didn't get the first one that he applied for. And it's because of his ambition. His ambition changed. He began to close his ambition gap. And if you're a supervisor and you are leading people and managing people, that you see the potential in them and they don't see the potential in themselves, I want you to step back as a leader and think about, how can I help this person get over their ambition gap? I'm Linda Bryant, leadership strategist and transition coach, and I support business organizations who want to make a great place to work a great place of work for everyone that's involved. And by focusing on your potential leadership, by focusing on identifying and engaging future leadership, and transitioning your workplace culture from a place of work to a great place of work, you're going to make you're going to transitions in terms of what your organization or your teams or your businesses are going to look like for the future. So if you liked what you heard today and you want to learn more, I'm going to ask you to send me an email at elconsulting8 elconsulting8@gmail.com, and in the subject line, want to learn more. And I will send you access to my webinar on transitioning from a workplace culture from a place of work to a place to work, and a registration platform for a discovery session with me, Linda Bryant, leadership coach and transition strategist and everything else leadership. It's been a pleasure having the opportunity to chat with you today, and look forward to meeting and chatting with you soon. So take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.